Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview show, FA Cup version, and I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by my good friend David Reed to preview Aston Villa against Tottenham Hotspur at the slightly bizarre kick-off time of 5:35 on Sunday. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off everything, including their new range that's just come out, and I'll definitely be on the phone to them in the next few days trying to sort myself out some gear. David, how are you? I mean, I've been with you all of January, and then I've obviously not seen you this week. Been a sad week for me.
A sad week for you. Yeah, I'm fine. Just recovering still, really, for after deadline day. Had a couple of days off. Back in next week, so yeah, it's fine. All good here.
Nice. And Teddy, okay?
Yeah. I've stuck the big headphones on today, just so listeners and viewers of last week will know that basically my AirPods decided to connect to the baby monitor as the podcast was going
Was
on.
that the problem? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was the problem.
That was the problem. So I took them out because I was like, "What's going on?" I could suddenly hear a child. So yeah, I've decided to go for the connected headphones today. So we'll see how long I last.
Okay, brilliant. Well, yeah, let's see what happens. I'm bound to encounter some tech issues of some description at some point, so we'll see what happens. Dave, how excited are you for the FA Cup fourth round? I feel that my excitement for the FA Cup obviously depends on how Villa are doing, and in all honesty, we haven't really been in the fourth round of the FA Cup too often in the last decade. So at the moment, I'm bang up for the FA Cup, and I'm enjoying the FA Cup in general because we're still in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great tie. It's a really good tie that we've got. And I mean, I know, of course, you could say, well, we'd quite like a lower league opposition at home and increase the probability of going through. But what a great tie it's going to be. I mean, I'm sure it will be a great atmosphere. Strange kickoff time. Hopefully, as many fans as possible are there, and it'll be a good atmosphere because it's a great tie and an opportunity for Villa to put a marker down, because I think some of the Villa players owe a performance against Tottenham, given the last couple of games, the way they've gone. So I'm excited, and I think the players will be as well.
Yeah, be happy in the comments saying that John Duran has scored 2 goals 20 minutes ago. I mean, for the standard of that league, we may as well cover my girlfriend's child's under-11s game on Sunday on the channel if we're going to talk about the Saudi Pro League and John Duran. So we're not here to talk about mediocre football here. We're here to talk about the FA Cup. And as Kevin Jean says, the FA Cup is magic. And yes, it is. And I really enjoyed the third round game actually at Villa Park against West Ham. Again, Premier League opposition. But first half was a bit tedious. We didn't play very well. But by the end of it, I'd really enjoyed that game. And it was a really good atmosphere as well. So I think, Villa being at home again is a really, really good thing, regardless of who we're playing, because Villa at Villa Park are generally
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
good.
That West Ham game was a tough one, I think, just because the Graham Potter factor. I think they stifled Villa quite well in that first half, in particular West Ham, and then second half Villa managed to almost grind them down a little bit. A little bit fortunate, probably, with the corner that wasn't a corner and Villa ended up scoring from. But I think on the balance of play, Villa probably deserved to go through. And it's another Premier League side this time around. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Johnny Lou in the comments talk about a crackling issue. I've got to say, it's really poor from me. But I have noticed you crackling, Dave, for the last few shows, and I've not done anything about it or told anyone who would have the need or the means to fix that at all. So I'm sorry, Johnny Lou. There is some crackling. It does only happen when Dave reads on the channel, I've noticed. So I'm not sure why that would be or what it is. Dave, any ideas? I mean, between us, we've probably got one technical brain cell.
Maybe I'll move the microphone further away. I don't know. Maybe I'm popping in the mic. Possibly. Don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, try anything, Dave, that you can to make Johnny Lou's experience. Just that I have actually noticed that myself and have found it quite annoying, but I've just done absolutely nothing about it. So I'll try and get that rectified for next time. Another kind of interesting sphere to this game, Dave, is Villa obviously have a few new players that could make their debuts on Sunday. Quite nice for them to be able to make their debut in the FA Cup rather than the Premier League. I don't know why, but that feels like a better place to introduce people than the Premier League for some reason. And with the news that Villa have a few absentees, and Ollie Watkins being one of them, you would probably expect Marcus Rashford to play up top in his first game and make his debut. But I have been thinking, and I mentioned this to you before we came on, Marlon has obviously had the body blow of not being named in the Champions League squad this afternoon, which I imagine would have upset him, given that he's a permanent Aston Villa player and it's the loan players that have been put in. Could he be offered the carrot of the start in the number 9 position? Obviously, ended the game as number 9 against Wolves and did okay.
Yeah, I thought he did fine. I mean, it was a tough situation for him to come into, I think, at Wolves, given the first half performance, given I think it was 4 substitutions, wasn't it, at half time at Wolves, and for him to come in, I thought he did fine, and you know, unfortunate probably on the whole to get that goal chalked off because of the offside. So I thought he did fine. I mean, whether he gets the nod in the number 9 position, I'm not sure. I would probably just go with Rashford as the number 9 and either and probably play Rodgers off him and then shove Marlon out to the right-hand side. I think and it was an interesting point you made around, it feels like a better place to play players in the FA Cup. I think that's because you almost feel like sometimes the FA Cup is a bit of a free hit, and given the fact that Villa's record in the FA Cup has been pretty poor of late, maybe you don't want to put them into the cut and thrust of a Premier League game where it is 3 points and Villa really do need to start climbing the table and the pressure is on. Maybe it feels like the FA Cup is a bit of a free hit, but yeah, I'd be starting Marlon, I'd be starting Rashford, I'd be starting Rodgers, I'd be starting Ramsey. I'm almost like, let's just go all out attack against this Tottenham team, because if things start to go against them early, it's possible that Villa could run away with it.
Yeah, just a little update on Cracklegate. Soapbox Stereo says it was crackling last time with Jacob, which completely blows my theory out of the water that it's you, Dave, and shift the blame ever so slightly towards the channel. But I'm pretty sure I did a show on my own and there was no crackling. So it's something that we'll all follow with interest. Obviously, something that we'll all follow keenly, and we will try and get to the bottom of it. I was just on TalkSport too. I got drafted in last minute because Quaker, our good friend, was sick, so I got drafted in to do it from home. Talking about Rashford and how he's going to fit in at Villa, and coincidentally, there is going to be a video on this channel a little bit later where Jacob and I try and work out where Rashford is going to play for Villa long term this season. But I kind of wanted to make the point that Rashford could well play as a number 9 on Sunday, but it doesn't mean that he would play that role in the same way as Watkins does. He maybe, if he plays there, he'd be asked to do different things, because the one thing about Emery is you can be playing a position on paper, like on paper Conser would play right back, for example, for some games, but really you're not doing that. So I just wonder if Rashford is playing as the number 9 or Marlon plays as the number 9, they're obviously not going to be able to do the same things that Watkins does. I do think Rashford will play as a 9 on Sunday. So if he does play there, it's probably important to know that Villa will have to change some things around that, because he won't be able to get Rashford to play in the same way as Watkins identically, although they do have some similar traits.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Obviously, then I know it's surprised me.
It surprised me too.
Obviously, they're not the same players, so that it's hard for Marcus Rashford to do exactly the same things as Ollie Watkins, and Ollie Watkins is so good at what Unai Emery asks him to do. My feeling is that now, look, I can't remember ever really Marcus Rashford being able to occupy almost a back four on his own like Ollie Watkins has been able to. Certainly, I've seen it in the Champions League against Celtic in particular, and against Bayern Munich actually in before John Duran came on. He's able to have a real wrestling match with the centre back. He's able to run in behind. He's able to run in the channels. He's able to keep everyone on their toes in a back four for 90 minutes. Now, I don't think Marcus Rashford has ever shown that sort of capability, because he's often been at his best when he's been out on the left-hand side, cutting in, certainly on counter-attacking and being able to shoot from the left-hand side and cutting on that right foot. So, yes, they're not the same player, and maybe he will start as the front man, but actually be given license to drift out to the left-hand side, and it will be up to a Morgan Rodgers maybe to fill that number 9 position.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Maybe there'll be a bit of interchanging where Rashford will start as the furthest forward, and then if Rodgers starts on the left-hand side, they will do a little bit of interchanging as the game goes on, and that not only the kind of rotation of position will occupy Tottenham's minds, rather than perhaps the physical aspect that Ollie Watkins brings you. So yeah, I can certainly see. Well, I definitely think Rashford will start as the 9. Then it's a case of what kind of role does he play? Does he play the Ollie Watkins role? Does he do something slightly different?
Asensio probably bench. I think we can probably agree. Obviously, we know Disasi can't play because he's cup tied, but the other new boy in and amongst it would be Asensio. You've already said you think Marlon and Rashford may start. I'm presuming that then means that Asensio would be coming on for the bench on an hour, 70 minutes to try and impact the game in the way that he can with his technical ability.
Yeah, I think so. My feeling is that it'll be Rashford and Marlon that starts, and then Asensio can come on and make an impact. And you'd like to think there should be some good attacking options really on the bench, even though Villa have got a number of players out. Because I feel like Leon Bailey might start on the bench, and he'll be looking to make an impact as well. And then one of maybe McGinn or Onana will start on the bench. So possibly one of those will be looking to come on as well.
It's going to be really interesting, this team selection. Suddenly, I mean, defensively, it's kind of pick what you can, see what happens. But in the front positions now, there is going to be some good options back on the bench, which feels like we maybe haven't had so much of in recent weeks because of injuries and departures. But now it feels like in that area, we've got a lot of variety and a lot of players that could come on and impact this game. I think Villa will win on Sunday. I'm confident of victory. I'm confident of beating anyone at Villa Park. And we saw what happened to Spurs last night at Anfield under an atmosphere that they went under. And in the end, I thought their performance was quite feeble. There's a lot more pressure, I feel, on Tottenham than there is on Villa in this game as well. You know, Villa fans will want to progress in the FA Cup because generations of Villa fans haven't seen Villa win the FA Cup, and it would mean an awful lot to a lot of people. But for Spurs, really now, with where they are in the league, what they do in the Cups is paramount, and that will add a pressure onto what they do.
Oh yeah, no doubt, and particularly after the result last night, I think there's much more scrutiny, a lot more neutral eyeballs on Tottenham and how they get on and what sort of lineup they name and how they approach the game, whether they go all out attack or whether there's a little bit more defensive mindedness there. So there's, my thought is that there is a lot of pressure on Tottenham going into the game, particularly those senior players which have been called out a little bit in recent weeks, that they probably haven't performed to the level as some of the younger players like Bergvall and Archie Gray, who I've been so impressed with recently. I don't think Bissouma, Bentancur, Son have really performed to the level that they are capable of. I think those three in particular have been underperforming. I know Bentancur's missed a decent chunk of the season, but I just think quite a few of those senior players should be doing better than they have done.
Yeah, I suppose the other interesting angle with the game is that Villa the last couple of times against Spurs have shipped a lot of goals, and we do know that Spurs are capable every now and again of pulling off a big performance and scoring a lot of goals going forward. When it goes right for Spurs, they can be really, really dangerous, and not a bogey team. So Villa have won there a couple of times and under Unai Emery, but certainly the last two results, Spurs have really put Villa to the sword, and we know at the moment that the chances of a clean sheet are very slim.
It's going to be goals, isn't it? It could be 4-3, so. Could be 4-3, could be 5-3, could be any score really. Could be 4-0 again to Tottenham or to Villa. So I would think there would be goals. I just think Tottenham right now, I think they've caused Villa problems in the past. There was the game at Villa Park where Villa tried something different, and it was 5 at the back, and we were trying to get to grips with some of their rotations, and in particular, Udogie has caused us issues in the past with him turning up in the 10 position or even up front, and it's been a bit confusing for us for Villa as to who's going to pick up who and how that's going to go in the game. And I think Spurs have taken advantage of that. The game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was a bit more of a bit more of a collapse from Villa, and we have seen things like that happen under Unai Emery, where Villa have conceded a cluster of goals. It does happen on occasion where Villa tend to ship goals in a short space of time within a game, and the game gets away from them. And that's what happened at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So I think from Villa's point of view, given that the previous two performances against Spurs, there will be a lot of motivation from Unai Emery to get the result this time, particularly with the number of players that Tottenham have got out, the pressure that they are under, and just how, just who's going to play in what position for Spurs and how they're going to approach it.
Given what you've just said there about kind of the last few fixtures and Villa and Spurs and the makeup of them ahead of this game, I guess Villa need to be extra careful that it doesn't happen where they concede one, then two, because it does feel more likely to happen with this defence that we're going to have at the moment. I can't even think. I mean, I presume the defence is going to be the same as the Wolves game potentially.
Yeah, I suspect so. Obviously, Lucadini was brought off for Martson, but I suspect Dini will come back in again. I mean, Villa were pretty much a 4-2-3-1, weren't they? In defensively, and then against Wolves, I'm talking about here, and then when Villa had settled possession, Bogard went into the back three, and Garcia pushed on down the right hand side. I just don't think it worked particularly well. I mean, it didn't, because obviously Villa didn't get the result, and I don't think there was that much cohesion. I didn't feel like the players were absolutely on it in that Wolves game in terms of where they were going to be at what time. So I can't imagine there'll be that kind of setup again. But I think it will be the same personnel in the back four. But maybe they'll be asked to do something slightly different from what they did that time, because obviously Bogard started in the midfield, but then he was dropping into the defence. I think Bogard will start in the defence this time. Yeah, right back. And then it's how he makes up his midfield. I think it'll probably be Tielemans and one other, either Onana or McGinn.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's going to be actually an interesting team selection at the week, and probably the more interesting team selections of recent years. Kari's just asking about Leon Bailey and the rest of the year and playing the new additions up top. I've got a theory here that actually Bailey really clicked into gear for Villa when there was suddenly some competition for his place in terms of Diaby came in, and then Bailey really, I know they were playing in different positions, but I felt like Bailey saw Diaby off last year. I'm hopeful that actually now having these new attacking options might bring something out of Bailey again, like it seemed to last season. But I don't know whether this is just complete wishful thinking from me, Dave.
Not necessarily. I mean, you go and interview managers. I remember Sean Dyche saying this, where I asked him about new signings, and it was kind of like, well, there's kind of intangible impacts of new signings where even when a player is driving to the training ground on a morning, they're thinking, there's a new guy in today. I've got to impress. I've got to stick it on this new guy and try and be better than him. It's all those things where not necessarily on the pitch where a player is going to think, I've got to impress here. It's more on a day-to-day basis, going into the training ground, coming home and thinking, I've got this guy breathing down my neck to get into the team. I've got a guy coming in from PSG who used to play for Real Madrid, who's won trophies wherever he's been. I'm talking about Asensio here, who might well fit into the Leon Bailey sort of position on the right-hand side. So it's all those other aspects on a day-to-day basis where Bailey's going into training and thinks, I've got to do better here. I've got to lift myself. So maybe it will give him just that little bit of spark that he's been missing this year, because he hasn't reached the levels of last year. And as much as maybe around Christmas time or maybe before, we were seeing elements where we thought maybe this is coming back for him, maybe this is coming back for him. There's still not been that moment for him. And even when we thought he'd had the moment, it's still not kicked on from there. So he is struggling. And I think, this is another opportunity for him with these new players coming in, another opportunity for him to lift his game and say to the manager, look, this is me. I want to play now every week. So the pressure's on him to perform. And you're right. I think things did go well for him when he had Diaby. I think, they almost even though they were competing, I feel like they almost complemented each other a little bit. So now he's in a situation where there's not necessarily only one player looking for his position like Asensio. Maybe Marlon's looking at his position as well. So there's not just one player here. There's two players that are breathing down his neck. So pressure's on for Leon Bailey now.
Yeah, apologies to Scott Taggart there. He said last time Bailey had real competition with players in the team, he really stepped up and performed. Let's hope he can again. I did not see that before I made my point, and then it looks like I've just stolen it and used it as my own, but I genuinely did not see that. So credit to Scott, who was thinking in a similar vein to me. Just quickly on Spurs, Dave. I guess they've had a tough game on Thursday night, being humbled, pressure on them in the cups. The good thing will be that they've obviously played on Thursday, whereas Villa haven't played since Saturday. But then I do also think with Villa, sometimes that works the complete opposite way that you think it's going to, and we look really rusty, like we haven't played for ages.
Yeah. I don't think Spurs got back till the early hours of this morning. they'll have a rest day today. It'll almost be a recovery walkthrough session tomorrow with a bit of video, and then they're at it again for Sunday. So there's very little time. And also, you think Ange Postecoglou won't want to be risking players on the training pitch because he hasn't exactly got a load of players to pick from. I think Richarlison now. I haven't seen exactly what Postecoglou said in his presser today, but I think
long term, I think
Richarlison's out again. So does that mean Matthias Tell starts? Possibly as the front man. He'll be looking to impress. He's a quick, mobile, aggressive player who I think Ezri Konsa will have to keep a keen eye on. So they do have talent in the team. I don't think they've performed to the level. But as you say, we've seen on numerous occasions this year, Spurs have chucked out a result from nowhere. And I saw the analysis or some of the quotes from Jamie Carragher last night, and I kind of disagree a little bit. Spurs have beaten City a couple of times. They've beaten Manchester United. I know it's Manchester United, but they do have form this year of turning in big results out of almost nowhere when the pressure's on. And when I say big results, not just results term, but performance-wise as well. They do have a talented team, and they are capable of causing damage. So as much as they're under pressure, they've got to be wise to that.
Okay, then let's finish. I was going to go a different route and not do the hot/freezing cold take today, Dave, because I assume you haven't prepared anything. I know I haven't.
No. I was going to try and lie and say, today's the day I've had prep for it, and you're not doing it, but no.
No. Let's do a first goal scorer.
Ooh, okay, that's a good one. Let's go Marlon. Let's go Marlon.
Marlon first goal. Okay, and I'm going to go Marcus Rashford.
What
for the first goal scorer? So a first goal for either.
Like it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go with that then. So lump on, I would say for that. Dave and I get everything right every week with our tags. So be sure to lump on for those predictions. That's probably neither of them even having a shot on target through the game now. Right. Thanks ever so much to Dave for joining me, and thanks to those that have joined us live. Apologies for the crackling issue. We're going to have a little quick look at that now and see if we can work out what the problem might be. Didn't want to do it when we were live. We'll try and get that resolved for next time Dave's on the channel. And for those that are really invested in Cracklegate, be back at 8 o'clock with Jacob Tanswell talking about Marcus Rashford and his role at Villa. So we'll be interested to see if there is any crackling in that show. That's going to make it an even more interesting watch. Adds another avenue to the show. So yeah, do stay tuned to watch that. Thank you for watching, as I've said, and thank you for going on to watch or listen. If you haven't managed to catch us live, please do all the things that I bang on about every single week. If you're listening via audio, a review would be absolutely magnificent on Apple Podcasts, and leave us a comment on Spotify as well, because you can do that now, and 5 stars wherever you're listening as well, and comment and get subscribed with your post notifications on YouTube. Right, I'll be back in a few hours. Dave is off to carry on and enjoy the rest of his night. So yeah, join us again at around 8 o'clock and you'll have a live show about Marcus Rashford. But for now,